Now let's take a look at incorporating materials and manipulatives into your hybrid instruction. Consider how you can cross over materials and manipulatives between the physical and digital form. Digital activities with manipulatives can be designed to be completed as digital manipulatives or by printing and cutting into usable manipulatives for both in-person and virtual usage. Physical activities can be designed to integrate with digital activities. Activities can be designed for students to use common materials available at home. Let's have a look at these two examples, the activity box and slides manipulatives. Let's start by taking a look at the digital activities. Down here in the middle, called the slides manipulatives matching sample. You have access to this slide deck, so you can click on this link and make a copy, or you can use this bit.ly link to make a copy if you would like to do this yourself. Okay, now that I have my copy, of course I can rename it and I can move it to wherever I want in my Google Drive. We are basically just using Google Slides, and we're creating an activity that has objects that can be moved around on a background. And really, you can design this for anything. In this case, we have a who, what, where board. Think of this sort of as the background of the game board. And at the bottom, we have these objects that can be moved. And I used shapes to create these rather than text boxes. In Google Slides, it tends to be a little easier to grab in the middle of a shape to move it, rather than on a text box, you would have to grab on the border to move it. Also, at the bottom, if you pull up the speaker notes, it reveals a step-by-step set of instructions for how to do this. I'll do a quick overview. So I started with a blank slide, and you really can use any objects that you can put on the slide. Text boxes, images, shapes, lines. Also on the insert menu, you have options. In this case, I used a table. I can create topics, categories, whatever I'm going to do on my game board or my activity board. And then I'm going to take time to format to make sure it looks exactly the way that I want. I also included graphics, and you'll notice as I click here, I can't select anything or move anything. We're going to get to that next. I actually would recommend creating the objects to make sure everything fits the way that you want before you finalize the background. For the sake of showing how to get this background to become the permanent background, you're basically going to do two things. You're going to go to File, Download, either JPEG or PNG, and that will export the current slide as an image file. And that goes onto your hard drive. And then I actually could just delete all of this, but because I might want to edit it later, I'm not going to. I'm going to duplicate my slide. I will delete all of this, and then I'm going to change the background. Okay, and now I have a slide that has what I created as the background. Now I can create the objects. So you can use a shape. I can double click to put text in here. Add an image. Then I'm going to select it, group it, and now I have an object. I can duplicate it, group it, delete that, any changes. Once you've created your board and your pieces, you really can delete this extra slide. I'm just going to select it to be skipped and move it to the bottom. That way I can use it later. But when I'm ready to finally deliver this to students, I'm going to want to delete this from the copy that I make for them. So I would delete this and then deliver it in Google Classroom. Now also consider, given that this is a digital activity, obviously you could deliver this digitally to your students. You can also print and cut out this board and cut out each of these pieces and put them in separate Ziploc bags for each child, or however you want to package your kits, and deliver physical manipulatives to your students. But the idea behind this is that you can either deliver this digitally or you can turn them into manipulatives. You do, of course, have to figure out logistically how do you deliver it to your students in a safe manner. If they're at home, how do you deliver it to them? If they're in the classroom, you would want to make separate sets for each child. Now let's have a look at how physical activities can be designed to integrate with digital activities. The idea is basically this concept of having a set of materials that students use. And these are either materials kits that you create for each child, or they utilize materials that students have in their homes already or in the classroom already that can be used for a variety of activities. So this really gets back to the design of your assignment, thinking through how each student will be able to do this and designing it so that it will work. Now we are going to take a detailed look at how you can integrate physical manipulatives and activities within the digital learning environment. So as you see in this picture, this is a box of materials. This is originally based on the concept of an activity box that would be in a station, and students would rotate and share the same materials. But now with COVID-19, we would just take a slightly different approach to that and figure out how to design the activities so that each student can do it on their own with their own materials. So let's have a look at how this would work. So let's click on this. And this is a view only document that you can look at. And the idea behind this is, of course, like I said, we want to modify it to be compliant with COVID-19 health guidelines. The idea, though, is that, as you can see in this photo, there's a label on the box. So the students would either type the URL to go directly to the Google Classroom assignment, or the QR code if they're using an iPad or an iPhone or an Android phone. And that would take them to the same link to the Google Classroom assignment. The reason for a Google Classroom assignment would be that that is where it holds anything that is captured during the activity. Students can write, type, draw, shoot photos, or shoot videos and insert them into the assignment. It can be delivered asynchronously. You can differentiate and deliver different assignments to different students at different times just by giving them the link when they're ready for it. Now let's dive a little deeper into the activity box. On this sheet, on your own time, if you could go watch this video, if you're interested in learning how to create the URL shortcut or the QR codes, that's a video about that. And here's a sample video that was made to model how you might make a video for the students explaining how to engage in this activity and how to use the shortcut and the QR code and how to complete the activity in Google Classroom. And typically I would include that in the actual assignment in Google Classroom. And then here are some sample print materials. This is just a sample activity that was based on Lego. And of course, again, you'd have to figure out what could students use if they're doing this at home and if they're in the classroom. For example, Cheerios or paper clips or pennies or any objects that you would think would be in abundance and common and available for your students to use. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so in this example, the idea would be that this was printed, laminated, and in the box. It's like a game board or an activity board. And then the students would use the materials and place them on here physically. So it's materials that can be used at home. They would have to print this at home if they were going to do it physically, or you could deliver it to them if you were delivering materials to their homes. You could also have them just recreate this and draw it on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper. And then they would place the objects, in this case Lego, from smallest to largest, give their value. They would have to discuss how they determine the value. So this is just an example, and there's other examples here as well. And really, again, this could be anything where you're thinking, how can I have my students use something physically on a board or an activity that is digital and can be printed? And then finally, what would they do with this? They would do the activity, they would take a picture of it, and then they would insert it into the assignment. So let's go have a look at that assignment. So again, this is a shortcut that goes directly to Google Classroom. Now I'm logged in here as the teacher. The student would see the assignment. They would have the box in the top right for their actual copies of their documents, which would be this right here. They'd have these videos over here. Let's have a look at that. And so this is what the students would have. They would use those activity boards with the manipulatives. Like in this case, the instructions tell them to complete one Lego challenge per session. And this would be whatever instructions you would give them, of course. And they would work through the sequence of activities based on what you ask them to do. So basically, you create the assignment, and this has a series of assignments for them to do. You might have them complete this activity, and then in Google Classroom, click Turn In, and you grade it. And you can return it to the students, leaving a note telling them which one to do next. That way you can differentiate how you are delivering the assignments to the students, but without having to create and deliver each assignment individually. Finally, when they finish the challenge, they shoot a photo of it, add the date of completion, and answer the challenge question. So let's look at that. So here are the instructions again for this specific activity. There's the question, there's the answer, there's the date. and this is where they would put the photo. They could also shoot videos and add the video here. Speaking of video, you can use just the built-in camera on the device for video and photos, but you also can use Screencastify. Students have Screencastify as well, and they can record a video and then add it into an assignment here. And if they do that, they would have to make sure the permissions are shared so that you can see it. Or if you have the students use the add or create button right here, and they just pull their file in from Google Drive that they just recorded in Screencastify, it will automatically set the permissions so that the teacher can see it. So your instructions might tell them to add it to the assignment rather than putting it into the slide, but either way works. In Google Classroom, you might create a topic that holds all of the activities that you have open and reusable for your activity boxes or activity bags. So that is an overview of how you can take digital assignments delivered in Google Classroom, have students use physical materials, and capture them using video or photos into the assignments, and then submit them to you in Google Classroom. Right now that I've shown you these two examples of how you might use Google Slides to create slides manipulatives, or how you might create activity bags or boxes with sets for each child, and how you can incorporate it with your Google Classroom assignment, let's reflect on this question. How can you incorporate digital and physical manipulatives and materials into your instruction safely and logistically?